to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome to the Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McAuliffe.
Thank you very much, Dick Warren, and thank you, my dear listeners, for being with us. If you're watching us, I'm waving to you on the YouTubes. And, man, what a great show we have for you today. You're going to get inspired, you're going to get inspiration, you're going to get motivation, and you're going to get real practical, useful tips on social media. Sound good? I thought so. I thought today, that's a good show. You're going to learn stuff, and me too. Well, let's talk first about our dear friends at the International Coach Federation. Here's the thing. We have been, and proud to be, media partners now in our fourth year of media partnership with the International Coach Federation. It gives us an opportunity to acknowledge and shout out to the fine work that those folks are doing. Over at the International Coach Federation, you know, it's the world's largest organization of professionally trained coaches. It's a not-for-profit, standalone organization, and their job is really to bring us up as a profession. You know, professions like dentistry or accounting, which is very timely we're mindful of this time of year. Things where they're accrediting educational organizations, they're providing consumer protection in the form of ethical standards and investigating ethical complaints about coaches, the few that there are. But really, it's a wonderful storehouse of knowledge. It's a wonderful storehouse of information about the coaching profession, and a great place for anyone at any level of coaching. So go immediately to coachfederation.org and check it out. If you're looking for some information, maybe the latest studies on coaching to prove ROI, if you're looking for information to respond to an RFP, or if you just want some motivation to get out there and get your own clients, all of that's available at the coachfederation.org website. ICF meetings also provide connections and networking with other professionals in your area. And if you don't have one, consider starting one, although there are hundreds of coaching groups and ICF chapters all around the world. It's an incredible organization, staffed by incredible people, and we're proud to be a partner with them. You can follow them on Twitter at ICFHQ. That's at ICFHQ. And we're just delighted to support them and the fine work that they're doing. Check it out, coachfederation.org, the International Coach Federation. We also want to shout out to our longtime sponsor and acknowledge our longtime sponsor of this program, which is Accomplishment Coaching. If you're like me, then when you go out to dinner or out for your professional training or anything, you're looking for the finest. You're looking for the best hotel in town. You're looking for the finest of whatever it is. Well, the finest coach training in the world is at Accomplishment Coaching. Find them on the web at accomplishmentcoaching.com. And you could go, here's my favorite thing about them. There's a lot of things that separate their training program from every other training program. A, you get a coach for a year, week in and week out. Does anybody else provide that? No. B, you get real live human beings brought in from the outside world to practice your coaching on, not your neighbor, not your fellow trainees, and not your friends and family. Third, it's an accredited program by the International Coach Federation, of course. And fourth, my favorite thing is that you can go and observe the coach's training program and get a sense of what's in the black box. Nobody else does that. Other coach training organizations might give you a workshop or a presentation about their work, but nobody else lets you come in and actually see the work being done. Check them out online. It's accomplishmentcoaching.com. And if you're in one of these cities, go attend one of their information or observation opportunities. That is, ready? Here's the list. I've almost got it memorized. San Diego, California, Seattle, Washington, Victoria, BC, a beautiful place if you haven't been there, Chicago, Illinois, our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and boy, couldn't they use some coaching these days, and the Big Apple, New York City. Check it out, accomplishmentcoaching.com. All right, I promised you inspiration and motivation, and our first guest is just the guy to give us that. I first became aware of him by reading him in Inc. magazine. But in addition to that, he's got a very inspiring story personally. He's also everything from a C-suite executive to a noted speaker and author. As I said, a frequent contributor to Inc. magazine, which I, as an entrepreneur, and perhaps you do too, read all the time. He's a certified personal trainer and a behavior change specialist. We're delighted to welcome to our microphones for the first time Brian Falchuk. Hello, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me on. And I love that, you're watching my articles. It's sometimes, writing all alone, you don't know if people are reading these things. So it's always great to meet someone who's actually seen what I've been writing. So I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. And I know what you mean. We do these podcasts in sort of isolation, and you kind of hope that somebody out there is listening, and then you get the numbers, and you're like, they like us. They really like us.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that personal certified trainer, because you have kind of an inspiring personal story. You're not exactly the svelte Greek god that you are today. Was not always true. Tell us a little bit about your journey from sort of overweight, is it fair to say, maybe even obese, to...
You could say obese, yeah. I mean, medically, I definitely fit the definition. It's how I spent my whole childhood, and it wasn't because I was eating too much and moving too little, although those things were true. It was because I had anxiety and depression issues, which stem from divorce in my family. I was the youngest of four. My parents' marriage started to come apart basically within a little bit of time after I was born. I always say, like, now I've come to learn I was the marriage saver baby and didn't work out. Little kids just have this need to feel protected and taken care of and loved, and that wasn't my situation. It's not that my parents were bad to me, but they were very much embroiled in what was going on. And, there were 3 other kids in the house, and I'm not faulting them or anything, but it did mean I needed to deal with my needs for, just protection and caring and feeling good, especially when the family unit was coming apart. And the only place I could turn really was food. It was always there. It wasn't yelling. It felt good. Pretty quickly, you can see, like, around age 5, I started to put on a significant amount of weight. I was like this skinny, happy kid, and then
harder than they need to be.
6-12 months later, you're like, whoa, different child. And it just kept going from there all the way through high school, where I got up to, actually, I don't know how big I got.
Well,
I know the last weight I saw on the scale was in 8th grade. I was 248.
Yes.
And my pants kept getting bigger after that. So it's probably somewhere around 260, 270. So it's about 100 pounds overweight.
And we don't have to succumb to them.
And just about 100 pounds more than I weigh now.
That's the
And
power.
what was the catalyst? What shifted? Because that sounds like, for many people, that could be a lifetime of heading that direction. So what was it that shifted? What's the transformational moment?
So there was a weight loss that I went through in high school on the back of just inspiration from this amazing guy who ran the PE program in my school, who taught me a totally different relationship with exercise and wellness. Instead of why are you so slow? Why can't you do this? You're lazy. This sort of judgmental negative path. He was more like, what do you enjoy doing? How can we, you've got all this possibility and capability. How do we unlock that? And how do we let you experiment out there, not just force you to run, but like, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Maybe you might enjoy this. He introduced me to lifting weights, which was, like, high school kid. You want girls to like you. You want to have muscles. Like, of course I would like that. That sounds great. Versus, like, panting and wheezing in front of my whole class, trying to run a lap, and, everyone's laughing at me.
Right.
So, the good thing was that gave me the physical things that I needed to lose weight, and I did lose weight. The problem was, and this isn't, it wasn't his responsibility, and most importantly, I wasn't ready for this journey. I didn't deal with any of the reasons why I put on weight in the first place. So the anxiety, the feeling like things aren't okay or they're about to fall apart, none of that changed until it was forced upon me to change it. And that's, I always say there's 2 key things to my backstory, and one is being obese, and that's been really helpful in my work with helping other people who struggle with their weight, because I'm not, it was nice of you to describe me as a svelte Greek god. Like, that is pretty far from the truth, but thank you. I'm very happy with my body today, and it's super capable, and, I feel good about myself. So in that respect, I don't care if I'm, an Adonis or whatever, I'm good. But I certainly did not wake up that day, that way from the start. So I get the struggle, I get how hard it is, and the judgment and the difficulties with it. The second pivot point in my story is really what I focus on in my book, and what inspired me to become a coach and help other people is this moment in 2011 where I was married, I had a 2-year-old son, and my wife has a chronic illness that we didn't know about, and it reared its head pretty severely that summer, to the point that she was actually on her deathbed. And I will spoil the story positively to say she is still here today. Not miraculously, it's because she and I made a number of really specific changes, and she was able to find some help to break free of this illness, but her doctors basically just didn't know what was going on, sort of blamed her for it, like, are you sure you're not just depressed? Are you sure you're not just doing this to yourself? Do you really feel all those things? I mean, come on, that's a lot. Which was just terrible. And they gave up on her, and she was losing 2 pounds a day and become bedridden. And her doctor called because he was going on vacation for 6 weeks, and he's just like, yeah, I want to check in. I'll be back in 6 weeks. Why don't we talk then? And it hit me. I was like, doctor, she's not going to be here in 6 weeks. Like, do the math. She doesn't have 6 weeks times, 7 days a week times 2 pounds a day. Yeah. She's like 102 pounds at this point. Like, that just doesn't work. And the only thing he had to say was, oh, okay, we'll take her to the ER if you need to. And that hit me so clearly as like, what is going on here? Every spouse potentially has to think about losing the other one at some point. But usually that's like when you're in your 80s.
Yeah, well, often at my house, it's in the middle of an argument.
Well, but that's intentional, right? Or you might want them to get lost. But, the death of a spouse is not something you're typically facing at, I was 32. Yeah. It's not something you're typically thinking about when you've had your first kid, and normally you might be having conversations about number 2. So that was a huge wake-up call for me, and not because, it's like, if she's gone, like, now I'm going to have to value life so much more. I mean, all of that's true, but it was more like, what am I doing here? And I don't mean, why am I sticking around in this house? I mean, like, what am I doing here in life? Mm-hmm. The way I describe the way I was living is I was an employee of my life. So I still had all that anxiety, all the issues from the divorce. Like, I was too young as a little kid to understand what was happening or to deal with it. So I'd never dealt with it. And my mother had gone through a second divorce just a couple of years before this point in time. So a lot of my childhood divorce issues came front and center through her second divorce. Like, that brought it all to the surface. So I'm dealing with all kinds of emotional stuff that I was aware of but not working on.
And what was the second, what was it that brought you through that terrible, terrible time with your wife?
So it was this realization that, I could be a single dad very quickly, and I've got all these things in my life that I'm not achieving and I'm miserable about, and frankly, I'm making no progress on. And what struck me, and this was June 30th, 2011, was this sense of purpose all of a sudden. And it's because after that phone call, I looked at my son who was looking at his mom, and it was in him that I saw this, like, hey, you need to completely change your situation, and there's your reason standing in front of you.
Right there, yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, that I felt something I've never felt before, and I chose, you get 2 paths. You can either feel it and be like, yeah, that's there, and maybe things will be different, or you can grab onto it like a life vest and or like a life preserver and latch onto it and use that to empower change, and that's what I did.
Well, your latest work, and boy, there's a lot of different directions we can go today, and I intend to go. So what I'm taking away so far is, number one, that the importance of other people. Like, sometimes it does take a village to get us out of our own thing. And but for that PE teacher, we don't know. You might be still obese and depressed, right? But somebody took an interest in you, and you felt that resonance or that spark within you, and they ignited it. The second thing I'm hearing is that every once in a while, life hands us a bowl of lemons, and you had that moment of, I'm going to call it revelation, for lack of a better term.
Yep, that's exactly right.
And then something switched. Is there anything that you can see or share with our listeners today that supports that? I mean, it sounds like for you, you're kind of relating to them as happy accidents. Are there ways that we can live or move through life that actually encourage or support that type of revelation or that type of kind of transformational moment?
Yeah, and that's such a great question, because that's a lot of the pushback I get from people who are struggling. Is they're like, well, I haven't had that kind of moment.
Right.
No one's put a gun in my face. I haven't lost everything. And I talk to a lot of people who have lost everything, and they don't talk about it as a terrible thing. They talk about it as, this change for them, and they, silver linings kind of approach. It was an opportunity, and you're like, wow, for people who haven't been through that, like, I could never see that as an opportunity. Like, well, not with that attitude, you can't. But if you choose to grab hold of it and use it to turn around, then you can. So the question is, what do you do if you don't have one of those revelatory moments?
Right.
And that's primarily what my coaching work is about, and a lot of what I try to help people with in my book and my writing is, so how do you do it if it's not thrust upon you? And so there's a number of questions that I pose to people to help them try to unearth their true motivation. And there's a ton of content out there on real motivation, true motivation, whatever you want to call it. I can go through each of the questions, but there's one that sort of sums it up, and it's how you go about answering it that is crucial. It's not just the question, but it's no matter what else is happening, what will you always care about? And when you go to answer that question, I guarantee you, your first answer is not the ultimate answer. So what's really crucial is you got to ask yourself why, and you got to do it a number of times. And that's where, like, having a coach is really valuable. I always say my role as a coach is you pay me to annoy you just by, like, not accepting your answer and pushing you why. You can do that yourself. It can be hard for some folks, and that's where, there's nothing wrong with getting some help. But you've got to press yourself beneath that surface level answer you gave. So I'm helping a guy who had gone through a huge turnover in his career. He'd been pushed out of a company in a role that he had been at for over 30 years, super successful, but he got into it when he was like 21. And he's now in his late 50s, and he's got 2 kids, and they've moved out. They're adults, and they're like, his life is night and day from the last time he had to think about who is he and what is he doing, and he probably didn't do that when he was 21. Just like got a job offer, and it sounded like good pay, and went for it.
Right, and many of us know that, right? Either for ourselves or
the way everyone does things.
You back into your career, right?
Yeah. Or even if you thought you knew at 21 or 22. Try waking up at 28 and thinking you're the same person, let alone 40, 45, like whatever age you want to choose. So he was so distraught and like, I have to get a job. You have to help me get a job right now. And I was like, well, we'll do that, but we gotta talk about you first. And that was so frustrating for him. He's like, no, I have to work. And it's like, well, you get a good severance package, so you don't have to have a job tomorrow. And we've been talking about how lost you feel. So like, what is it? We had to get into this question of values and what matters. And his first answer of why he feels he needs to work right now is because I'm the breadwinner. Well, actually, it wasn't that yet. It was because I have to pay the bills. And I was like, well, wait, your wife works full time, your house is paid off, your kids moved out, and you've got this severance package for a while. Why do you feel you have to pay the bills right now? And then his answer was, because I'm the breadwinner. And now you're starting to get closer. We've only asked why once, but we're getting closer to a values question, because breadwinner is a role. It's not a logistics or like just like cut the check and mail it out. It's I'm seen as the breadwinner in the family. So I asked about that. I said, in whose eyes? Like, why are you in the position of breadwinner in your family? And so we just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And what we found is his whole sense of self was around his success in his career. And he really didn't understand himself beyond that and how his kids looked at him. And he felt the need for them to be proud of him. Because, and then this went back to like his childhood and not feeling that way growing up. And so it's just like, it was so interesting what we unpacked that started with just like, the electric bill is due in 2 weeks kind of thing.
Right.
But you got to press into that.
And I love the notion that coaches are fundamentally annoying. That's our job, is to annoy or perturb our clients.
Nuances.
Let's talk about the book. Do a Day is your award-winning book. It's a bestseller, and it's designed, I believe, to have people not only live a better life every day, but really to help us deal with challenges and goals in various aspects of our life. Will you tell us about the book and what did you really want people to get? And I'd love it if you'd share one tool, tip, or technique from it.
Yeah, so it's a way to get over and get through the toughest moments of your life and get to actually achieving, whatever your goals may be. And I talked about one of the key things is motivation. So if you look at the platform that you're going to use to go after life, think of it as building a house or building a building. the ground is the first most important thing, and that's self-love. And that sounds super cheesy to people, and they get uncomfortable with the word choice, but get over it. It is what it is. You need to be comfortable with that. And that's something as a society we really struggle with. We all spend so much time putting ourselves down and discrediting the good that's out there about us. And if you don't agree with me, next time you're at someone's house for dinner, compliment them on the food and see how quickly they don't just say thank you and smile, but they're like, well, I burned the chicken, or I didn't. Like, we can't, like, just let it be. Like, I liked it. Can that, just take the compliment. Listen to people comparing how little they got to sleep last night and how miserable they are. It's like, oh, I was up so late, I only slept 3 hours. 3 hours? What are you in, like a luxury pampering? Like, I slept 2 hours last night. Whoever has it worst wins.
Right, it's like a contest, exactly.
Completely. So self-love is the first thing. Then we hit it. The foundation is that motivation that we were just talking about. And then the building itself is the goals. And do a day is the way that you execute every single day. And it's not one day at a time. It's not like grit your teeth and get through the tough moments. It's proactive, like do as a verb. So when you wake up, what actions are you going to take in support of your goals to move you forward today? And the day part is it's sort of a mindful way of thinking about it. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday, and it doesn't matter how much more you have to do tomorrow. If I continued to look at losing 100 pounds, I would continue to not make any progress because that's too much. And you don't lose 100 pounds any day. Today, I get up and I'm going to do specific things. I'm going to do my workout. I'm going to, prepare my lunch so that I'm not caught in a situation where I'm going to make bad choices. And I'm going to surround myself with these people because they're supportive of me, and not those people because they're going to put me down or pull me into the things that I shouldn't be getting into. So I'm going to do things today in support of my goals. And it doesn't matter if I screwed up yesterday. I haven't thrown it all away. I can always do better today. And it doesn't matter if I still have 98 more pounds to lose going forward, because I'm not losing them right now.
Beautiful reminder, and very practical. So again, the book is Do a Day. You can find it wherever fine books are available, but go to doadaybook.com, doadaybook.com, and find out not only about the book, but find out about all the support structures, all the coaching and speaking and other opportunities to even videos there of Brian and his work to get supported. I love it. It's practical, it's useful, it's real world, and it's today. Self-love, motivation, goals, and execution. Not execution forever, but today's execution.
Exactly.
Brian, because of I'm sort of a fan of your ink work, I want to, our time is dwindling here, but I want to give you a rapid fire on some of the topics that you've talked about or written about. Okay, are you ready?
Sure. Yeah.
The one thing that people can do to be a better leader this year, the first thing everybody should take on, what is it?
I got to remember the first thing that I put in the article, but I do think that it's just humility. Like, talk to your team and get the real feedback from them, and then you got to actually make some changes about it. You got to be open. And I'm sure that's not the first thing I wrote in the article, but that's kind of what it boils down to.
This is not a test. This is more like what you learned and what's important to you.
Yeah.
Second thing, you write about social media, having done a bunch of these podcast interviews. What's our next guest is a social media expert, but what's your takeaway, or what would you like 50,000 coaches to know about social media?
It's the same thing everyone tells you that you never want to believe, is like consistency above all else. So this is my 87th appearance. And like that so matters. So you always you want that one tweet or that one article to go viral, and then it just all works and you get 1 million followers and you're made in the shade. But that does happen, but that's not generally what happens. So you got to put the work in. You got to stay consistent with it. And that's where Do a Day comes in. Like, don't lose faith. Be like, I've been doing this for a month and I've gotten nowhere. Keep at it. If you believe in what you're doing, then you keep at it and it will work out. But don't expect a result today. Just do what you got to do today in support of that overall thing that you're trying to build.
No magic pills, no magic bullets.
No.
Just keep at it. I like that. One more, which is everybody. I was talking to a friend the other day about this. It seems like everybody has a side hustle these days. Even doctors, are like, oh, I'm working under the table over at this clinic or that place, right? Everybody's got a side hustle. Good idea, or the beginning of the fall of our civilization?
That's extreme. I love the side hustle for so many reasons, but and I've had one since I was in college. I think it's really crucial not just to have the insurance policy about, like, you know, if your job doesn't work out, but to have that kind of creative outlet, to have a place to play around and try things for yourself. You know, some people, they work for themselves full time, so maybe they don't feel the need for it, but it's just a great way to continue to expand your mind. And yeah, you know, having that side income, not such a bad thing sometimes, especially if things turn south.
True that. All right, sir. Well, it's been great to meet you, talk to you in person. We've got about a minute left in our segment today. I'd love to give you that minute to give a parting thought or a parting shot to our 50,000 or so coaches listening. What would you have us know or take away today?
So, you know, I'm a strong advocate of this mindful approach to how you live, but without self-love as the start, and just get over the word choice. It just doesn't matter, because if you're always arguing yourself out of your ability to get anywhere or to deserve to be anywhere, then it's pointless. So I tell people, stop the but. Like, have something nice said about yourself or say it yourself, and as soon as that word but comes into your mind to discredit it, just stop there. You know, it's like, I did great today, but nope, you did great today. You know, today. End of discussion. Move on. Allow for the good to exist, and it's pretty amazing what you can achieve when you do that.
That is the sage advice and wise words of Brian Palchuk. Brian, thank you so much for your work in the world. Thanks for being with us. And dear listener, go to doadaybook.com and find out not only about the book, but all the ways that you can get supported by Brian and his folks. Or go to inc.com, inc.com, /author/Brian, B-R-Y-A-N, Falchuk, F-A-L-C-H-U-K. Thank you so much, Brian, for being with us. When we come back, we'll find out more about social media and exactly what tips you need to take. You're listening to The Coaching Show right here, brought to you by Accomplishment Media and Accomplishment Coaching, right here on WSRadio.com, the worldwide leader in Internet talk. Go check out that Do a Day book, and then come right back after these important minutes. Stay with us.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
Are you seeking to change your career to something that is both fulfilling and challenging? Do you want to help people reach their full potential and strive to achieve their dreams? Would you like to inspire those around you and help create a better world? If you're serious about a career change or just want to explore the craft of personal coaching, contact Accomplishment Coaching. With locations across the country in Washington, D.C., Seattle, Chicago, New York City, and San Diego, Accomplishment Coaching is the leading institution in personal coaching. Our staff carefully monitors the entire program, live during the training process, and have met the strict standards of ICF International to achieve accreditation. Through a focus on quality instruction rather than endless modules of training, Accomplishment Coaching will guide you from your very first step all the way to becoming one of the finest coaches in the world. Visit AccomplishmentCoaching.com to learn more. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach.
Christopher McAuliffe is your source for the latest in the world of personal coaching. Whether it be speaking with such luminaries as Deepak Chopra or getting the newest techniques and innovation, The Coaching Show is always on the cutting edge of what's happening now.
Gotham Books presents Marriage Rules by Harriet Lerner. The book Martha Beck calls required reading for anyone hoping to interact successfully with any other human, not just for those in romantic relationships. Get your copy wherever books and ebooks are sold, and visit harrietlerner.com to learn how to change your marriage today.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the coaches training program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to the Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McAuliffe.
Thank you, dear listener, for being with us. As promised, after your inspiration, now we're going to get some practical tips, some useful information. So get your number 2 pencils and your composition books ready, because we're going to learn a lot, and there may be a quiz at the end. Jay Izzo is a man who works in the field of social media. He's written a book called Got Social Mediology, where he creates this meme, this idea, this thought, this name of social mediology. He's the internet doctor. He's a nationally recognized expert on the psychology of social media. He's been on many, many, many programs where you've probably heard him comment on something about the way we live and the way our social media is working. We're delighted to welcome him to our microphone. Hello, sir.
Hello, Christopher. Thanks for having me back on.
Thanks for being had. Hey, look around outside. Where are you today?
I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it's snowing like crazy here.
Oh, man, get out. Get out.
It is coming down so hard. I'm glad I'm talking to you so I don't have to look at it anymore.
Spring is just around the corner, Jay. Hang in there, brother.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that.
You've worked with everyone from Wall Street to college athletes, all sorts of people, corporate executives, to understand the psychology behind social media to develop our personal or our brand recognition. What's the number one thing? If you could wave your magic wand, if you could speak from the heavens and get everybody to stop doing one thing, what's the thing we're mostly doing wrong?
We are so selfish that we want to say what we want to say because we believe that our freedom of speech is so important to us. What we don't understand on social media is that while we do have freedom of speech, we do not have freedom of consequences. We really strongly urge people that before they post anything, that you think about what the potential consequences could be before you decide that your free speech is that important to you.
So this is interesting, and it leads us to a political discussion. But before we do that, I want to swing the pendulum the other way. What's the number one thing that you would have people start doing or continue doing? What's the one thing people are either doing right or is the right thing to do in social media?
Yeah. Stop spending money on advertising thinking that that's going to help your business, and start building relationships through these platforms. As understanding them as cultures rather than simply as a platform, that these are places that have their own unique language and their own unwritten rules, norms, and expectations. And if you were in a foreign country, if you do things well, build relationships, those relationships turn into not only great things for you personally, but also become business and become referrals for your business.
Beautiful. So it's important to respond to humans and say things and like and comment and reply, not just sort of become a factory of here's my latest pimple and here's my latest breakfast and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I tell businesses, whether you're your own business like I am on my own brand, or whether you're a coach, why don't you spend more time commenting on other people's stuff rather than trying to figure out what you're going to write? Why don't you jump into their world first before you start worrying about your world? Because you find that you're going to get a far greater return by being a part of someone else's social, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever it may be, you're going to get so much more because we're people that need people, and we respond well to that. And so respond to people. Don't worry about what you're going to write. Why don't you focus more on what you can say to encourage or to like or to share something that someone else has said that's important or important to them.
Beautiful. Okay, well, let's go back a step to the political world. So one of the things I heard in your sort of admonishment to be less selfish and to sort of look at the consequences of our actions. More and more, at least in my world of social media, people are polarizing themselves into two teams, you know, the red team and the blue team, and then we stop listening to the other team and we just talk to people on our team. Is this a good idea from a brand perspective?
No. Matter of fact, what I tell every brand is never be polarizing, and which means that you need to stay away from, if you're a brand, stay away from the political posting. It's just not going to serve you any good. And I'll tell you why. Do you care whether your client is blue or red?
Well, you're probably asking the wrong guy because I have an opinion about everything. But your point is, if they're your client, you're not like saying to half the country, "Hey, I don't want to do business with you." Right.
Well, so I live in the state of North Carolina, which, by the way, the number one god in North Carolina, I believe, is basketball.
Right.
Okay. And so we have to be very careful. Even I tell people here, you need to be very careful, like, about posting your NC State or your University of North Carolina or your Duke or your Wake Forest.
Yeah, the minute you say "Go Blue Devils," you've lost 3/4.
Yes, it's so true. And then we have the ABC crowd here in North Carolina, which is anybody but Carolina. So you have that group where you alienate 2/3. So you have to be very careful whenever you're dealing with polarizing content, because you're going to alienate people, and that's never good for business, because we do not want to alienate potential consumers. And, you know, Christopher, you said something. You know, much of this polarized content seems to separate us.
Right.
And if we're going to come together, then the last thing we should be doing as a business, we should be probably part of the catalyst of bringing us together, not pushing us further apart. Yeah. So don't let your business do that.
I love that. One more note on that, and then I'll get off it, I promise, is I'm surprised when you see polls, like real polls that are done not from a political standpoint, of Americans, about 75 to 80% of us agree on the major issues, even though we seem to be on different teams or different parties or whatever it is, right? But if you ask people about like any of our major issues, you know, the environment or the climate or whatever, about 80% of us see it the same way, and yet we're somehow dividing ourselves. All right.
Yeah, it's the emotions that get in the way.
Let's talk about something that people don't normally, you know, a lot of people, including myself, get into what's wrong. Let's talk about what's gone well. In the last year or so, this is a good time to look back over the last year. Have there been positive changes in the social media world?
Oh, there's been several that I really, really am excited about. A very simple one that I think is a really great change is Twitter going from 140 characters to 280 characters. I think that's going to open up communication and make Twitter more social rather than, you know, just a media site where people are just posting, you know, media information and we're just getting out stuff. So I think that's a good thing. But I'll tell you the biggest piece is what LinkedIn is doing. Ever since Microsoft purchased LinkedIn for $26.5 billion, they have really done some really cool things. Let me just give you a couple. A lot of people didn't know this, but there is actually a student portal called students.linkedin.com where students can find paid internships. They can get internships right directly in their field. They don't have to compete against senior level people, and they can get their first job from this portal. And they're really, really focused on helping these students be able to move into their careers. With that, LinkedIn has recently offered a mentoring program. So if you're interested in a particular field, you can actually find a mentor who's been in the field for a long time, and they will answer questions for you. and help you understand what you need to know, what kind of education you might need, what kinds of other things that you might need to be successful in that business. And both of these are just so cool, and I could not be more excited for what LinkedIn is doing in terms of helping the next generation become professionals and getting them to understand what's going to take to be successful. So those are just a few of the positive things that are happening right now on social media that I am so excited about, because I think we're doing something really great for our future.
Man, that is great. Thanks. What about, I'm going to have to ask you, in this negative world, what about some of the things that have gotten worse or that have that you're not excited about?
Well, I don't know if it's from a platform standpoint so much as it is from the human standpoint. Social mediology is a term I created, which is the study of social media from the psychological perspective of the user and the social, psychological, and cultural aspect of each platform. And so I study not just the platforms themselves or the cultures, as I like to refer to them, but I also study human usage of them. And I am probably more disturbed by what I see humans doing with these platforms. Like, I am disturbed greatly when there was a story that was printed last year that a young lady by the name of Danny Mathers, who happened to be a Playboy bunny, I guess, in the Playboy Mansion, I think she was, and she was in the LA fitness club, the big one where all the stars go, and she's on Snapchat, and she takes a picture of a naked 70-year-old woman, and it literally says, "If I can't unsee this, neither can you." And of course, she got kicked out of the club. But this is the type of thing that is disturbing to me. Yeah. Instagram has been rated by far, there's not even a close second, as the most narcissistic platform. And it's those type of things that disturb me, that we're so into me that we're not able to see the other side of people. And that disturbs me probably greater than anything else.
Yeah, there's something about common decency or respect or kindness there that seems to be missing, right? It's that thing where we get autonomy and we get to then sort of somehow be a jerk.
Well, and not only that though, Christopher. I was speaking on a radio program, and I was talking that just a couple weeks ago, a 14-year-old young lady from Minnesota posts a naked picture of herself to a boy. Okay, and gets across all the school, but she's being charged with this 14-year-old girl being charged with distributing child pornography. So not only is she the victim, but she's also the perpetrator. So this is a real problem. And I was just speaking to the North Carolina Principal Fellows Program. This is the best of the best who are going to be principals, and I was speaking to them, and I was telling educators and even employers, if you do not have a social media policy in place now, when something bad happens, it's too late. And sadly, that's the thing that I'm having to talk about probably more and more with companies and corporations is what's your policy? How are you going to handle this? What if somebody does any one of these things? What is your response going to be? How are you going to handle that publicly? How are you going to deal with that internally? How are you going to deal with that externally? What are the going to pieces? Because if you don't have a plan, because it's going to happen. I'm just telling people that expect the inevitable. But if you don't have a plan for it, it's too late. And that's the part of my job right now, the part of me writing and talking to folks right now is that I'm having to tell them, what are you going to do to be prepared?
It's something that's critically important, and we need to shout it from the rooftops. Everybody needs to know that. Let's drill down a little bit. People may be listening who are looking and hungry for tips for themselves. If somebody's just starting out, what's the number one tip or the sort of most important pieces that you give them when they're just starting out in a business?
First of all, know your demographics and psychographics. It's the first thing I say to everybody, because you don't have to be on all the platforms. See, the biggest mistake that I think that businesses get from the social media, quote-unquote, gurus, strategists, experts, or whatever they are, the first thing is they feel like they have to be on all of it.
Right.
And you just don't. You need to be where your clients are. And once you have that, once you've narrowed it down, and and for the most part, it's probably LinkedIn and Facebook. I mean, it really is. Maybe Instagram, depending on, who you're working with. But once you've narrowed that down, then start working in their world. Know the language, right? I mean, if you're on Facebook, for instance, stop promoting your business, because Facebook, we connect as friends. So you need to be a friend first. If you're on LinkedIn, it's a professional culture. So, and now it's kind of more business casual, but you need to connect as the professional as you are there, but you need to be a friend on Facebook.
Clear.
And so you need to understand that culture. And then what I want to tell them, and I hope people understand this when I say this, be authentic. Meaning it's okay if you happen to like a really good pizza at your favorite restaurant and take a picture of it. Mm-hmm. It's really okay if that's authentically who you are and you really love it. People love passion. So we want to be around passionate people. And if you're really passionate about this pizza and you're this outstanding business coach, my gosh, who doesn't want to talk about pizza? If you love dogs, people will connect over dogs. As human beings, we will connect with each other on a business level, not over the way you do business, but because of the person that you are. So be that. Because that's going to give you the most success on social media. I promise you. And then be consistent and committed to it. Because just because it's not working right now or you feel it's not working, stay with it. Because that's what relationships take. They take commitment and they take consistency. And as you develop those, you're going to get plenty of rewards and benefits from it. I promise you.
I asked our prior guest for one social media tip as a lead into this segment, and he said the exact same thing. Stick with it. Those people who become viral sensations overnight, that's not you. You and I are people who will sit there and we will comment and reply and talk to people and develop relationships, and that's how we get big. Is the viral sensations are one-hit wonders, right? And rare and few between. You know what I mean? Few between or rare.
Yeah, it's far and few between, and it's rare. And by the way, the strangest things go viral. By the way, right? It's really unpredictable. I actually have a video. This is a true story, Christopher. I have a video on YouTube that when I had my left knee replaced, that I actually videotaped the first day of rehab and the second day of rehab. And then it just got too much. It was too overwhelming to do the rehab and film it.
Yeah, sure.
The first day has over 250,000 views.
That's crazy. All the people looking at knee replacement surgery, or you think these are just people who enjoy pain? Or
I mean, they're watching my first day of them taking out stitches and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and they're watching, and it's over 250,000 people watching my first day of being physical therapy. And I know that I've had hospitals from all over, all over the country contact me, say, "Can we use your video?" And I'm like, "Sure." But I have all sorts of people who evidently, have thought about doing surgery or know somebody that was and wanted to know what's it going to be like. And isn't that crazy?
Right.
Isn't that crazy?
And that and Pizza Rat. Yeah, we got millions of people between the two of them. All right. Well, you know what that brings up for me is that story and the story about the 14-year-old girl brings up all kinds of concerns because I'm a parent.
Sure.
Are there tips or admonishments or training you can give us for parents who, we're going to be concerned about giving our kids any kind of device because instantly they're on social media?
So first of all, parents, if you're listening to me and my voice right now and you have young ones and you're going to get ready to deal with social media, let me explain that you are never going to be popular with your children with the decisions you're about to make with social media, because it is so much easier to restrict it early and loosen later than it is to loosen early and then try to restrict it later. Because once you've opened up the gates to social media, it is very hard to pull back the reins on that horse, so to speak. So be restrictive, really, really restrictive. There are all sorts of third-party apps now that you can monitor your children's social media content and what they do, I really suggest that you look at them and investigate a number of them. Some of them are really, really good so that you can watch. My cousin has a daughter, and they actually share their accounts on social media, so she knows exactly what her daughter's doing because it's a shared account between the two of them. So I really love that idea with her young daughter. I think it's really, really great. And then I got to tell you, I was a child, and so were you, Christopher, and I didn't always listen to my parents. Matter of fact, when my parents would talk, it was like the teacher from Charlie Brown, if people remember that. Yeah. But I would listen to my neighbor's wisdom. And so sometimes sometimes there are people that you need to take advantage of who are fun and funny, and I try to be that way with kids when I talk to college kids and even high school kids about social media. I try to be fun and funny, and yet warn them about not only the dangers, but also the good things like the LinkedIns and things like that. Take advantage of that for the future when I go speak. So try to go search the internet. There's a lot of really good people that go and speak and that your kids can listen to that they'll probably glean from that won't come from you. And so I really recommend that you do that. And then, you know what, parenting isn't easy. So I need you to sometimes practice tough love. You're going to have to do the things that you don't want to do in order to demonstrate how much you just love your child. And that's part of parenting, and it's a hard part of parenting because that's not what we want to do to our kids. But you got to make the hard choices. But when you do make the hard choices for your children, you're doing the best thing for them. So keep that in mind all the time. And that'll probably help you get through this for a while, because chances are they're going to be smarter than you when it comes to social media. So they're still going to find a way around it. But at least you can walk away going, I did everything that I possibly could.
Really great words. All right. Well, our time is flying by. We've got about just a couple more minutes.
Sure.
Let's do a couple of rapid fire ones. You ready?
All right. Yeah.
Social media stars of the last year or so. What are some memorable things from social media for the last year?
Let's see. I think Twitter is a star for increasing everything. I think from a personal standpoint, I thought Arnold Schwarzenegger was a star using Instagram with his estranged son that he had, and they were in Germany with their lederhosen on, and he was having a beer with his son. And I thought that was one of the most awesome ways to use Instagram that I've ever seen. 16-year-old man from Australia who used Instagram to explode his donut making business as a young entrepreneur, I thought was one of the most star-struck things I had ever seen. I think, even though people will not agree with me on this, actually the way this current president has cleverly, even in his craziness, has used this social media to his advantage. Like it or not, it's really was clever, and it's been very effective for him. So I think, even if I don't necessarily agree with everything he writes out there, he's actually used it quite well, and I have to give him.
Yeah, we certainly talk about him a lot.
Sure.
But Jay Izzo, just a reminder, you told us at the top of the segment not to talk about controversial things. Let's go the other way. Rapid fire. You got about 30 seconds for this. What are the big stupids of the year? You're coined a term, social media stupids.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Danny Mathers. Snapchat is social media stupid. People who invested in Snapchat were just stupid because it's going nowhere. Yeah. The over and over, the different people who were posting naked pictures of themselves on Snapchat, not thinking that anybody's going to see it because it disappears in 24 hours. Then I have to, again, you can throw our president in there too, because he's done a lot of social media stupid too. So I would throw that in there. I would also say that more celebrities have just said more dumb things than we'll ever see, that we've ever seen in the past year on a variety of things. We have also seen just a plethora of the young lady in Texas who, is driving down the road. She's lifting up her shirt to Snapchat her boyfriend, and she rear ends a car. So, I mean, these are many of the stupid things that we've seen.
Well, 30 seconds. Let's let everybody know what's the best way to reach you and find out more if they want more tips and more of your expertise.
Yeah, well, I'm the only registered trademark as the Internet Doctor. So if you Google me up and there's an R with a circle around it, that's me. But also you can find my book at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and it comes in all forms: iBooks, iTunes, Audible, Kindle, Nook.
Great.
Hardcover. Yeah.
And the book is Got Social Media, that you can find them on the web at Social Mediology. Sorry, Got Social Mediology. Social Mediology. That's SOCIALMEDIOLOGY. Social Mediology. Jay Izzo, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
That's the Internet Doctor, and that's another edition of the Coaching Show. Take all those tips and use them, and then come back, because we'll be with you each and every week, bringing you people out on the cutting edge or the useful edge of coaching and the related things. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Nowadays, internet devices are an integral part of your home. Everyone in your family has a smartphone, tablet, or a computer. Life is easier knowing that all your devices are secured and your family can surf the internet carefree. ESET Multi-Device Security Pack does just that. One license for all your devices. With ESET, it's simple to stay protected and save money. Enjoy safer technology with ESET Multi-Device Security Pack at ESET.com. That's ESET.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548